Welcome to Socializing Security, where every week we have a discussion about security, compliance, and beyond.
Our goal is to learn and grow by socializing each week's topic with each other, our guests, and with you.
A quick compliance note, this podcast is meant for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal or regulatory advice.
We're glad you've joined us, and we hope you'll learn along with us.
You can bring us in. You just love that job.
I don't know what we're doing, though. Okay, I'll bring us in, and then I'll drop the landmine on you. Yeah. Okay. Ready? Here we go. And welcome back to another episode of Socializing Security. We are excited to be here with you all, and it is winter time, and we are thankful for all of you, and looking forward to an interesting holiday season. Milou, you're battling a little bit of a cold today, I think. So
yeah,
good times all around.
It's that post-Thanksgiving family sniffles that I've got going on. So hopefully it's not too distracting, and I'll try my best to mute. But I also have a dog that's just decided she also wants to join the conversation. Hey, Minnie. Classic timing. Comedic timing. I have my dog, Minnie, and then I had another animal recently join our pack. I've had another dog join the crew. His name is Chevy. He just
Hello.
barked.
And why are we recording right now?
Just because this is great proof for my trainer that he does know his name, because we were going back and forth on it. Anyways, so Chevy is here too in the recording studio at home. And this is one of those episodes. I was planning on doing a Milou Speaks the Truth episode today, but then I joined our recording studio and Brian was here, so we are collaborating together.
Yeah, that's what I get for joining at the time we were supposed to join, I guess, huh?
So what you get for being punctual to it, like T. So catch me up. What has been going on in your world? Because we've both been kind of just like ships passing in the night lately, just even in our recording studios. I've been pushing a lot because I've been working on some big things for my company stuff, but I've been really, really grateful you've been able to like pick up the slack where I've been just kind of heads down.
Yeah, I mean, work's been super busy for me as well. I was out of the house, actually recording an episode while I was in a undisclosed location while I was doing a little bit of personal / work stuff going on.
An undisclosed location sounds like very private, like you work for the CIA or something.
I mean, you're talking about the names of your pets and everything, and I'm not even willing to talk about where I used to be weeks ago.
This goes back to like risk tolerance and personal risk tolerance, where like I am very public on the internet. It's how I've built a business, so I kind of had to lean into that. I find it very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I don't love it, but I mean, Minnie has met your work team at RSA earlier this year, so she is well known in the public space as well. There's pictures of her, I think, on a bunch of LinkedIn accounts.
I once upon a time did define my career on being more public, being more social media focused. I'm not a fan of social media these days. I think we've talked about that. So I've definitely pulled back a lot on that kind of stuff. But even then, I was pretty circumspect about personal stuff, especially when I'm traveling and things like that. So yeah, it's just been busy with that. This is a busy time of year for a lot of different reasons. Like the month of December, I've got a lot of travel coming up, a little bit of work, a couple personal trips coming up, which, it's the scramble this time of year to try to
silly season.
Yeah, to get everything done before you go on vacation, so you're not overwhelmed when you come back from vacation and completely ruin the vacation because you've got so much work to do that, all the stress levels go straight back up.
I hate this about our culture.
Oh, 100%.
This is one of the things where, like, because I'm Amero-European, like, this is actually where I would rather lean into the European side of my, like, background and culture, where, they don't necessarily have Thanksgiving like we do in the United States, but there is some respect about being like, when we're getting close to the holiday season, like, things are starting to, like, cool off a little bit, as opposed to just, like, let's get everything ramped up and finished, because goodness, like, what if I don't finish that email before 2 p.m. on Thanksgiving or whatever? Like, I genuinely, because I work for myself, like, I do set my own schedule, which is nice, but my clients also set their own schedules in the sense most of them are startups, and so they have their own, office hours, and none of them have been following them. And so it's tough because I, as a business owner, want to be like, hey, I also would occasionally love to just like bake cookies with my nieces and nephews or like do something fun for the holidays. But that seems, especially when you're like a consultant in the United States at the end of the year, it's really easy. Like consultants are a cost center ultimately. Like they're a great thing to trim the fat on or to reduce, with like Q4 budgets being like really tight, especially where startups, might not have hit their goals, whatever it is. Like I mean, you and I have worked at companies like that. Like we've been there. Like I totally get it. I'm somebody who like has been through burnout and has recovered from burnout. And I try to make sure I don't burn out in my current job because it's me. So if I don't show up to work, like nobody's doing work.
Yeah. And there's definitely more of an American culture. It's kind of, at the company I'm at now, it's a little bit more amplified because we are a very global company. And so, big chunks of people who live in countries that don't celebrate US Thanksgiving or Christmas, November, December may not be as much of a downtime for them as it is in kind of this more Christian-centered part of the world. So it does become more tough because of that, for sure. Like Thanksgiving was, I wasn't completely disconnected, but I wasn't doing work stuff. But I would check work Slack a couple times through the 4 days. And there was a lot of messages that piled
but
up.
like the 4 days, like are we talking like the working days or the actual? Because, for
Well,
those
and that's-
not in the US, Thanksgiving is on a Thursday. And generally most companies have Thursday and then Friday off. And Friday kind of has the roots in Black Friday, right? Ultimately, in terms of like Black Friday, Cyber Monday, like that's because everybody wanted to shop and get deals. So US culture is around shopping and whatever. I'm cool with that. I mean, as a kid, I was one of the people that was like first in line, when Best Buy and some of these major box stores had like the huge coupon sales. Like I was in the line and I used to they wouldn't even give me the coupons because I was too young. So I was that young. And then my mom would be there and then she'd be like, no, she was here at 5 a.m. just like everybody else. You're going to give me the coupon. She's getting 2, 1 for me and 1 for her. And then I saved up my money for that. So yeah, for those listening that are not in the US, like for US holidays, Thanksgiving generally Thursday. And then most companies, I would say, have Friday off, or it's pretty common that you'll see Thursday, Friday.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have a lot of thoughts on the cultural aspects of things, which isn't really for this podcast necessarily.
Well, could be.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
but having this like culture of I can talk about this because I represent 2 different cultures. So I'm cool with it. I mean, I had a different experience when I actually used to work in the Netherlands, but it's cultural changes are important and they're good to think through. But it's also just, if we're thinking more from like a technology and like startup mindset, and that's really our target audience, I'm like, are you good? Is everybody okay? Because like I'm barely hanging on as a startup and as a founder, but like I'm trying to create boundaries. I can say in this year in 2025, I don't think I've really taken a true day off except for 4 days when I was in Switzerland because there was no connectivity. So I'm part of the problem. I will admit to it. But I have tried to set boundaries with like when I'm working internally for like my companies versus externally for clients. I'm very clear about being like, hey, like my office is closed on these days. I'll pick back up, and I use schedule send and I use things to make sure that if I'm working late or working different hours, I want to respect their culture and their time off too. Because there's nothing worse than when you come back from like the day after Thanksgiving or something on the Monday and you're just like, where are these 10,000 deliverables that you haven't had yet?
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't have a lot of those deliverables that people were looking for when I came back after those 4 days. But again, being an international company, some countries don't take Saturday, Sunday as their weekend. Some of them are taking Friday, Saturday as their weekend. And so some people in my company are working on Sunday, and the time shift between time zones means that they're working essentially 2 days over what I would consider the weekend. And so
isn't that called like follow the sun?
No, this is more just cultural type thing. So Israel's.
Can you explain what follow the sun is though for those listening?
Yeah, follow the sun is the model of making sure that and this is most common when you talk about help desk type operations that are global. So think your HPs and your Microsofts of the world that, service clients in pretty much every single country on the face of the earth. Well, if somebody calls the support number, somebody needs to pick up. So follow the sun is a model of making sure that operations are going 24/7, that there is no downtime. And to go back to the burnout part of the conversation. Making people in the United States, let's say, cover 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday night isn't always the most effective. It's not always the most fair. There's a lot of ways we can look at it that is just not the best way to run a shop. So therefore, you actually have multiple call centers in this example around the world. So, Australia's covering some part of the day, and, India is covering some part of the day, and Europe is covering some part of the day, to make sure that it is, there's always somebody there to answer the phone, is essentially what Follow the Sun comes down to.
Yeah, it's like an information technology service management, ITSM specific. Honestly, it's a specific like on-call reporting schedule that just like started because teams grew, and then, global teams suddenly had to flex because, as you had said, right, it's hard to get people on any holiday to want to just go to work. That's really tough. Usually it costs companies more money. And so
Yep.
This is where this culture of outsourcing across the world in this kind of like global economy that we're in, it's really important to have that type of like follow the sun methodology. The thing is what I think we've lost culturally, like where I work and where I live in my own like kind of culture and bubbles, is that I do work very closely with international teams, and, my companies are global. And so I do respect, when some of my team members and clients are based out of India and they're, having Diwali and like they have those festivals.
Mhm.
If they're closed, they're closed. And I'm like, I respect that. And I try my best to, not at DM them on Slack, or, try to respect to just be like, hey, I see they're closed, so I'm going to tag their on-call person that's maybe in the US, stateside, or wherever they are, to just like respect that. Cause I know that's mattered a ton to me internally for whatever reason. If I was out sick or, had a holiday, whatever it is, to just like respect that. I think it's just kind of a sign of respect. And
Yeah.
I lately have just been struggling with this because like everybody that I work with lately has just there's just kind of this lack of decorum, or we're kind of missing the point where like we're all just like working to live.
Well,
It's
we're all just shooting things out, like the immediacy of things. We shoot things out, and whether I expect you to respond at 10 o'clock at night on a Tuesday night or not isn't communicated. You receive that notification, you happen to see that message, and you feel obligated to reply as well. And from a leadership perspective, one thing that I've really taken to heart is when I'm in a leadership position, to be mindful of the fact that if people see me responding on the weekend, then I may be transferring that assumption that they will do the same thing. And so you got to be really careful about that. And that's where, scheduling sends of emails, and you can do that in Slack and a lot of other messaging apps to
You can do that
send
like
it at a
pretty much
specific time.
everywhere. I think
Yeah.
the only place I can't actively do it right now, which is in Signal, which I find a bit of a shortcoming for Signal.
I can't remember. I want to say that there is, but it may be dependent on the client you're using, because the clients can be different. But being aware of, and this is something I've learned being very internet focused for my entire adult life and into my childhood, in the very early days of the internet, is that I really resisted emojis at first when they first became a thing.
Same. I used to hate them.
But then I realized that is a way of communicating the unspoken aspects of communications. I tend to be sarcastic. And if I type out something sarcastic, it can be very, very easily misinterpreted.
It comes off very dry sometimes. I know your humor though, so I'll usually push back and be like, did you mean it that way? Or like,
Yeah.
ouch.
Yeah. And that's where emojis, I found, like, you put a little smiley icon, you're like, I'm making a joke. Don't take this seriously. Or this is not intended to be mean type of situation. So being thoughtful about your communications is important, especially this time of year when you don't know, people hopefully are flagging when they're out, but you don't always know that. And, you can't expect everybody to respond immediately, no matter whether they're in the office or not.
It's so tough because it's funny you say that about the emojis, because I used to really, really dislike when people used emojis. And now you'll see my posts and all this kind of stuff. I put them everywhere because for me, subtext is something that I sometimes like. I assume people that understand where I'm coming from, and then they just don't, or my messaging just falls super flat. I am kind of like a straight shooter, or I just kind of like tell it how it is. And so for me, I've learned to like use emojis to soften language. And also from a content creation perspective, like using emojis, it actually just performs better. So there's something about also just from like a content creator perspective, if you're open to occasionally putting a little star or whatever, unicorn, that's my favorite one, to just like put that in there to just show people to be like, hey, like it's still me, even if I'm coming across a little bit more direct or I'm delivering a harder message or I'm doing something exciting. Like today I got to send a friend of mine a unicorn emoji because I sent them a job offer. Like I got to be like, hey, do you want to come be on my team? It's a huge deal. And so for me, I'm just trying to just use my like unicorn as my like secret thing that I just love. And it's not so secret because I share it here. And yeah, like,
Not
you know,
secret anymore.
yeah, no, it's not. And it never was meant to be. It's a background of when I had my idea as a startup founder that somebody was like, they were forecasting. It was an investor that was forecasting which years like certain startups would hatch. And so it was called like, oh yeah, like 2023 and 2024 will be the year of like gestating unicorns. And then suddenly, like, if you are a startup founder or honestly a business owner or just have a great idea, at a certain point, your unicorn might hatch. And so that's where I'm at in terms of my trajectory, which is why I currently relate to the unicorn emoji the most. But, I'm not sure that would necessarily fit your brand, Brian, but maybe.
The Last Unicorn used to be a favorite movie of mine as a kid, and one I have
know.
watched as an adult with my kids, so you never know.
You and I are both about to transition, so I'm curious. I'm going to let you do it. I'm curious where you're going to take us.
I was going to fumble my way through it. I was actually going to go back to kind of where things started, about just kind of where we're at right now and where things are going. It's a busy month. So, trying to be clear about communicating the fact that I'm going to be out a lot. So I know our schedule is going to be a little bit hectic. I mean, the good news is that I've got 3 trips, 2 of which are personal, and both of which I'm very much looking forward to. So, it's going to be a good month overall. It's just that the time to create content for this podcast isn't necessarily going to be there as much. So, a little bit of positive news, I guess, there.
Yeah, it's like one of those kind of like dual-edged swords where it's like we're both really grateful that we're busy because like you and I'll speak for myself. I would way rather be busy than bored. I'm just not my best version of myself when I'm bored. And when I say that, I just mean when I just have less going on. So I have the same thing where, I have work travel is suddenly just ramping up, and that's a good sign because it generally means the company is busy, and that's like a really great place to be. But it also means there's certain things that like I'm struggling through commitments, and I'm somebody I cannot stand when I don't show up on time or if I just blow a meeting or I miss something. And so I've been spending a ton of time in just investing in tech myself to just be like, some of my project management stuff is just broken. Like I'm missing meetings because I'm like, I had a client reach out, be like, hey, where were you with this audit engagement? And I was like, it wasn't there. And it turned out that there was just a disconnect between one of the automation tools that I have. My automation just failed. And so that's tough. And that's a good learning lesson. I'm at the point where my company is scaling, which is huge. But we're actually going to be like more than just me, which is awesome. So it's going to be a team of unicorns. But that means there's certain things that I'm having to like put on the back burner. This is not one of those things. So I'll say that very clearly. Socializing Security is absolutely one of the little unicorn eggs I'm still absolutely invested in. It just means you and I made a really big commitment to one another that we were going to show up, and we both have. And so I think I'm really excited to see what 2026 is going to look like for us. But I do think we should take some holiday hours and should maybe take some holiday breaks and weeks, because I think you and I set an unrealistic expectation for ourselves last year that I think we only missed 2 weeks.
In almost, we've been recording episodes for 2 years now. And at this point, we've only had 1 week where we didn't post something.
Which I think was like Christmas last year or New Year's.
It was New Year's last year. Yeah. And so we've exceeded our own expectations, I would say. I'm very proud of us to do that. But that has required us to use the backlog. Little pro tip for podcasting. It's nice to have a backlog for those weeks where you can't get something recorded. And we've unfortunately kind of tapped that got what got us most of through this time last year. But this year we're not entering it with a healthy backlog. So I think we will probably be taking a few weeks off in December, maybe early January. We intend to continue to work on the back side of things, but you may not see that work immediately. Just as an FYI,
Yay, startups.
Yeah. Yeah, we may have 1 or 2 episodes we post through the rest of December, but don't be surprised if there's a couple of weeks where, or potentially more, that you don't get us out of your feed. But don't worry, we will be back. We definitely
You have
have
such a good
plans.
podcaster voice at this point. I'm so impressed. Sometimes I hear you when I'm editing and I'm like, man, that guy should have my podcast.
I just need to find somebody to pay me to do it.
We're working on it. We'll get there. We'll see. I'm sure we'll do some of our manifestation stuff as we're kind of recording and putting stuff in the queue and the backlog, as Brian so smartly said. I would like to pivot and ask Brian if he feels comfortable to share Tell Me Something Good. I have one for myself ready to go, but I would like to see what Brian wants to come up with. He can tell me if he wants me to run through it, or you want
I
to go?
mean, it's a matter of picking one.
That's good. That means there's more than one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm blessed, and as negative as sometimes I think I sound on this show, I don't have a lot to complain about. Like I'm living a pretty decent life. There are a lot of things I wish could be better. But
Good to have goals.
family is good. We don't see each other as much as I would like. But that is the nature of families getting bigger, schedules continuing to accelerate in busyness for some reason. Wish I could figure out why, as my kids have started leaving the house, we continue to be busier. I don't get that. It may just be I feel a little bit more free to have my own projects like this one that aren't zero effort.
No, they're not. It should be less effort, but we're working on it.
I do them because I enjoy them. Or, I think I've talked about like urban development type stuff in examples before. And that is an area of passion for me that I enjoy getting involved in and using that as an opportunity to do better for my local community. So those are types of things that I do also prioritize. And unfortunately, I just may have too many of them. And there's been another
It's
one
good to
that
have
popped.
hobbies, and it's also good to occasionally just like reassess and be like, hey, like, is this still serving me, or is this still fun? Am I still enjoying it? Is this still
Yep.
worth my time?
Yep. And I got another one of those annual commitments that's going to pop up here in January before I know it. And I'm going to sit there and be like, "Ah, do I really want to keep doing this?" But it does a lot of good in the space that it exists in. And I want to continue doing it. And in fact, there's opportunities for me to get more involved that I have thus far said no to, and will probably continue to for that reason. So yeah, some of that travel is to see far-flung family that we don't get to see very often. So excited for that very much.
Even the way that you said it, you ended on like a monotone, like a down. I feel like Brian gives me feedback on like my audio and notes, and I'm like, Brian, come on. All of those were positive things. So yes, Brian has some upcoming travel that sounds like it's going to be worthwhile and super fun and exciting. And it's great to
Yep.
also just sometimes get to take space from work and commitments and all that stuff. So I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
I will share a Tell Me Something Good. I will get better permission from a client of mine to actually share a full audio recording at some point, but I can give a preview just talking about it today. So I have a law firm and I do some work pro bono occasionally for friends and stuff through a different organization that I have called Compliance Coalition. And so it's something that, I use as this kind of vehicle to do something good occasionally, where if, sometimes, lawyers, occasionally we do have to give back not only for our compliance requirements, just for like our continuing legal education and stuff. We do have some different requirements. Also, sometimes it's really great to just like take some time and like in your work life to be able to help a friend. I know you and I both care a lot about that. We try to do that. That's part of, we use our podcast for that too. Sometimes we will bring on a guest that we know is having a hard time, is looking for a job, whatever, to just share a platform and see if that might help. That being said, in law school, a friend of mine years ago asked me, it's a pretty common question for lawyers when you're like thinking about becoming a lawyer and you're studying for the bar or whatever, and it's just like really tough stuff. I remember a colleague of mine asking, who are you most likely to sue or to like go after? And this was before I had a career in tech. This was before I had any interest in technology. They didn't even offer technology courses at my law school when I was there. It was so like cutting edge and new that you couldn't even take like tech law classes. They just didn't exist. And my answer at the time was Facebook. Without a doubt, just had a feeling that I was like, I would be most likely to go after social media. And they were like, why? Like, because I've always been on like social media. Like I kind of like grew up in the age of social media. So I've always been very active on it. And I was like, yeah, I just like from a privacy perspective, I have a feeling that like one day I'm just going to just disagree with privacy practices and we'll just see how it goes. And I was very committed to like learning about the GDPR when I was in law school because it was all happening. And my tell me something good is I had a matter recently resolved for a client that I did pro bono and small business owner, teacher, based out of some part on the East Coast, and just fell in some bad luck with like AI, just honestly misclassified her account and blocked her. And it suddenly, her small business is dependent on her social media content creation and not, she happens to work a full-time job and that like helps pay the bills. But also social media is suddenly what gave her family the ability to like have other dreams and to be able to jump in and step in and support her. I have chills talking about it because I have a voicemail from her when she found out that her accounts got unlocked. She called me. I happened to be in some other client meetings, couldn't pick up. I have the best voicemail I've ever received. I just replay it if I need to hear something good. She is in tears in like a happy way of just being like, I can't believe we did this. I can't believe I have access. So again, this is not something like I'm not coming at Meta now or Facebook, whatever. I'm very grateful we had a wonderful exchange. We, were able to like figure out something that works mutually for the client. And I am so grateful for that. It was life-changing for her and it really made my day. So that was my tell me something good.
Yeah, that's awesome. You had told me this story already, so
You got the preview.
not a surprise to me. I got a preview of the preview. But yeah, it's good to know that the little person can still win against these big giant corporations that seem to be running everything and seem to be just running roughshod over everybody. So it's good to know that there is an avenue that good can happen.
It's just like a little kernel of hope, I think, that I really needed, just especially lately. If I do have people that rely on me that are feeling stressed and are feeling burnt out and are feeling like they're not getting enough time, effort, whatever it might be, to just suddenly have somebody who calls you and is like, I'm jumping up and down in my apartment and like, this is like so game changing for my family. And I was like, this is why I do what I do. And so I'm very grateful for that. And it was something that I will probably continue to just listen to occasionally when I'm getting negative feedback because for whatever reason I didn't show up to a meeting or I had to change plans. It's a good place to be when people want your time. That's really nice, but it also requires boundary setting. And so in the same way that you're kind of sharing that you're changing how you're going to be spending like free time and what that looks like I'm going to have the same thing because I do need better boundaries. I'm looking forward to having a couple of days off, maybe towards the end of the year. We'll see. And again, for me, these are like champagne problems is how I explain them. I'm a big Swiftie. So for me, I'm always like, hey, for me to be busy means like things are going well. Something I'm doing is working. And so I'm going to continue with that momentum into the new year. But yeah, like I'm excited to also see, what Socializing Security will look like in 2026 because I have a feeling you and I might be able to hit some of the commitments that we've been dreaming about for a while.
Yep, that's what we're going to spend a little bit of time in December trying to get ahead of when, we may not be able to get together to record or even to record individually like we have done on occasion, but maybe we can work on some of these things in the background. So
yeah, we have
looking
some
forward to
really, really cool guests lined up for 2026 already. So I'm already excited about the scheduling that's happening. A lot of content creators and less traditional, I think, is the best way to say it. I think, we're fortunate that we had so many friends and colleagues reach out to us originally when we were kicking off the podcast being like, hey, like we want help. And, now it's actually a really cool place where now I'm able to reach out to people that I'm seeing as content creators or tech leaders, STEM superstars. And I'm just able to reach out to them and be like, hey, like, if you'd ever be open to it, we would love to have you join us and whatever that looks like. And we're coming very much from a no obligation. You do you. Like, if you want to come chat with us, that'd be awesome. Like the door's always open. And most of them have been a resounding heck yes, which is so nice.
Yeah.
And a great sign.
Awesome. Yeah. It feels good that people are interested in jumping on this thing and doing it with us. So we do appreciate all that for sure.
All right, Brian, I'll let you close us out.
Cool. Well, again, we appreciate all of you that watch and listen. We may disappear for a little bit, but we'll be back for sure come 2026. And we look forward to socializing with all of you some more. Hopefully I have more of you on to talk to as well as to talk at. as this is pretty much one-way communication mechanism today.
For now. All right.
Wink,
Thanks,
wink.
everyone, for socializing with us. We'll see you in the new year.
Take care. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Socializing Security. We hope you learned a thing or two with us.
If you'd like to continue socializing with us on this topic or have feedback, we'd love to hear from you on LinkedIn or social media. Just search for Socializing Security. Or you can email us at info@socializingsecurity.com.
Until next time, stay social and stay secure.